Welcome back to Goodness Ripple. It was a Friday evening. The restaurant buzzed with chatter, the soft clinking of glasses, and the hum of background jazz. The warm glow of hanging lights reflected off polished wooden tables as waiters moved with graceful precision. Among the diners was Thomas Bennett, the CEO of a successful tech company. He had reserved a private corner table, planning to celebrate the closing of a massive deal that would create hundreds of new jobs. At 52, Thomas was known for his sharp mind and relentless drive, but also for his humility. No flashy entourage, no bodyguards, just him enjoying a quiet dinner with his phone tucked away. Thomas ordered a glass of red wine, savoring a rare moment of peace. The smell of rosemary and garlic drifted through the air from the kitchen. He thought about calling his daughter to share the good news, but decided to wait until after dessert. For now, it was just him, the warm ambiance, and the promise of a calm evening. But calm doesn't last long when trouble walks through the door. Three men entered the restaurant together. At first glance, they looked like any other group out for a night on the town, well-dressed, confident. But their energy told a different story. They scanned the room with sharp eyes before settling on Thomas. The tallest of them, a man with a thick beard and a scar across his left cheek, whispered something to the others. Then, with an unsettling smirk, they made their way to Thomas's table. "Mr. Bennett," the bearded man said, his tone dripping with false politeness. "Fancy seeing you here." Thomas looked up, startled. He didn't recognize them. "Do I know you?" "Oh, you know us," the second man said, leaning in close enough for Thomas to smell the alcohol on his breath. "You cost us a lot of money, CEO. Millions. And tonight, you're going to make things right." Thomas's pulse quickened. He remembered the lawsuit, an organized crime front that had tried to strong-arm his company into a shady deal. He fought back in court and won. These men weren't here for conversation. The third man, younger but no less menacing, pulled a chair and sat down uninvited. The other two flanked Thomas, blocking him from the rest of the room. The restaurant's chatter softened as nearby diners sensed something was wrong. But fear has a way of paralyzing people. Eyes darted. No one moved. "Listen," Thomas said, keeping his voice calm, "this isn't the place for." The bearded man slammed his hand on the table, rattling the wine glass. "We don't care about the place. You're going to transfer the money. 15 seconds, or things get ugly." The room froze. The waiter by the bar pretended to check his notepad, unsure whether to intervene or call for help. And that's when someone else noticed. At a table near the window sat Jack Reynolds. 42, former Navy officer, now working 2 jobs to support his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Tonight wasn't supposed to be dramatic. He'd saved up to treat himself to a steak dinner, a rare luxury. Jack wore a simple plaid shirt, sleeves rolled up, forearms marked with faint scars from his years of service. He wasn't the kind of man who looked for trouble, but trouble seemed to find him. Jack had noticed the men the moment they walked in. Old instincts die hard. Their posture, their eyes, the way they moved, it screamed aggression. And now, seeing them corner a man who clearly didn't want them there, Jack's stomach tightened. He heard the words, 15 seconds. That was all he needed. His chair scraped against the floor as he stood. The sound turned heads. Jack walked slowly toward the table, his boots tapping against the hardwood floor, calm but with purpose. "Evening, gentlemen," Jack said, his voice steady, with that unmistakable tone of someone used to command. "Everything all right here?" 3 pairs of hostile eyes turned toward him. The younger one snorted. "Mind your business, old man." Jack's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice cool. "See, that's the thing. When I see 3 guys threatening someone in a nice place like this, it kinda becomes my business." The bearded man chuckled darkly. "You got guts, I'll give you that. But walk away. This doesn't concern you." Jack stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "Here's what's gonna happen. You 3 are gonna stand up, and you're gonna walk out that door. Quietly, or you're gonna have a really bad night." Laughter erupted from the men. The tension in the room crackled like static. A few diners slipped out their phones, ready to record. The youngest thug rose from his chair, towering over Jack. "What? You think you're some kind of hero? You don't even know who you're dealing with." Jack smiled faintly, but his eyes stayed cold. "Kid, I've dealt with worse than you before breakfast." And then, without warning, the man lunged. Time seemed to slow. Jack sidestepped, grabbing the attacker's wrist and twisting it with a precision honed by years of training. The thug yelped as Jack spun him around and shoved him into the table. The wine glass shattered, spilling red like blood across the linen. The second man charged. Jack ducked low, sweeping his leg in a clean arc that sent the thug crashing to the floor. Before the man could recover, Jack pressed his boot to his chest, pinning him with practiced ease. The bearded leader snarled, reaching inside his jacket. Bad move. Jack closed the distance in 2 strides, grabbing the man's arm before he could pull whatever was inside. A swift elbow to the ribs, a knee to the gut, and the man crumpled like paper. It was over in 15 seconds. Maybe less. The restaurant erupted into applause. Diners who had been frozen moments ago now cheered. Someone shouted, "Call the cops." The waiter sprinted toward the phone. Jack stood there, calm as ever, adjusting his sleeve like nothing happened. The 3 men groaned on the floor, humiliated. Jack crouched near the leader and spoke quietly, his tone like steel. "If you ever come near him again, you'll wish tonight never happened. Understand?" The man nodded, gasping. Thomas sat there, stunned. He struggled to find words. I don't know how to thank you." Jack offered a hand to help him up. "No need. Just glad you're okay." Thomas shook his hand firmly. "No, really, that was incredible. I owe you." Jack shrugged. "Just doing what anyone should do." Thomas smiled faintly. Not everyone would. By now, the police had arrived. Statements were taken. The thugs were handcuffed and dragged out, still muttering threats they didn't have the strength to back up. The room buzzed with adrenaline and relief. When it was over, Thomas turned to Jack again. "Let me at least buy you dinner. Please." Jack hesitated, then smiled. "Well, I'm not gonna say no to a free steak." They sat together, and for the first time that night, Thomas laughed. They talked about life, about service, about fatherhood, about the strange way faith throws people together. Jack mentioned his daughter, and Thomas listened intently. By dessert, an idea sparked in Thomas's mind. "You said you're working 2 jobs?" Thomas asked. Jack nodded. "Yeah, gotta keep the lights on for my little girl." Thomas leaned back, thinking. "How would you feel about working for me? Head of security. You'd never have to juggle 2 jobs again." Jack blinked, caught off guard. "You serious?" "Dead serious," Thomas said. "A man like you, loyal, brave, capable, I'd be lucky to have you on my team." Jack chuckled softly. Guess tonight wasn't such a bad night. After all. They shook hands again, this time as future colleagues. What started as a quiet dinner, then spiraled into chaos, ended with new friendship and a life-changing opportunity, all because one man decided not to look the other way. That's the thing about courage. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it just gets up from its chair and says, "Not today." And when it does, the ripple never stops. Thank you for watching Goodness Ripple.